Orbiting about 250 miles above Earth, the International Space Station is one of humanity's greatest achievements. It is a laboratory, a home, and a symbol of global cooperation. For over 25 years, people have lived aboard this outpost, floating in a fragile bubble of life in the cold vacuum of space. But what happens when an astronaut gets seriously ill on board? For the first time in the ISS era, NASA had to find out. Imagine the steady hum of life support systems, the gentle rhythm of oxygen circulation, and the quiet dedication of astronauts far from home. Then came a call from the station, a medical concern involving one crew member aboard SpaceX Crew 11. NASA made a rare and historically significant decision to bring the entire crew home early for a controlled, medically driven return. The mission, known as Crew 11, began routinely. On August 1, 2025, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched 4 astronauts toward the ISS. The crew included NASA astronauts Zena Cardman and Mike Finke, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Kimiya Yui, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. For more than 5 months, the crew followed the structured rhythms of spaceflight. They conducted scientific experiments, maintained station systems, and lived and worked aboard the orbital laboratory as part of Expeditions 73 and 74. On January 7, 2026, NASA announced that a medical concern had arisen involving one member of the Crew 11 team. As a result, a planned spacewalk was postponed. NASA did not disclose the astronaut's identity or the nature of the medical situation, citing medical privacy policies. NASA flight surgeons consulted with the crew, but the station's onboard medical resources were not sufficient for a complete diagnosis and treatment. To ensure the astronaut received the best possible care, NASA opted for a controlled early return to Earth. This was not an immediate emergency evacuation, but it was serious enough for NASA to act. On January 8, 2026, NASA confirmed it would bring the entire Crew 11 team back to Earth ahead of schedule. This marked the first medically driven early return in over 25 years of continuous ISS habitation. Planned spacewalks were cancelled, and mission leadership and flight surgeons on the ground coordinated with international partners to prepare for an orderly departure. Because the Crew Dragon capsule that brought the astronauts to orbit also served as their sole return vehicle, all 4 had to depart together. On the afternoon of January 14, 2026, the Crew Dragon Endeavour undocked from the ISS as it orbited over the Pacific. After several hours of transit, the spacecraft began its deorbit burn, slowing just enough to exit orbit and re-enter Earth's atmosphere. Re-entry subjected the capsule to intense heat and deceleration forces, as is typical for spacecraft returning from orbit. Communication briefly went silent during the expected plasma blackout period. Then, after parachutes deployed, the capsule descended gently into the Pacific Ocean. At 3:41 a.m. EST on January 15, 2026, Crew 11 splashed down safely off the coast of California, concluding their early return. Recovery teams quickly approached the capsule, assisting the astronauts out of Dragon per standard return procedures. NASA confirmed that the crew was safe and in good spirits after splashdown. Initial medical checks were performed aboard recovery vessels, and the astronauts were then transported for further evaluation on land. The early return affected ISS staffing. Only 3 astronauts remained aboard the station. NASA astronaut Christopher Williams and Russian cosmonauts Sergei Kudzverchkov and Sergei Mikhayev continued station operations until the next crew rotation. To restore a full crew complement, NASA and SpaceX moved up the launch of Crew 12, scheduled to lift off in early February 2026 as a relief crew for the ISS. The medically driven early return of Crew 11 was a rare and historic event in the ISS era. It served as a reminder that human spaceflight carries unique challenges. Space medicine remains limited in orbit, and even with onboard medical equipment and continuous support from flight surgeons on Earth, some conditions require care that can only be provided on the ground. As NASA prepares for longer missions to the Moon through the Artemis program and eventually to Mars, medical autonomy and robust healthcare capabilities in space will become even more important. The Crew 11 early return underscores the human side of space exploration. People, not just machines, remain the most critical and delicate component of missions beyond Earth. If you appreciate calm, story-driven science and the human side of space exploration, consider subscribing to the Elsbeth Effect. Until next time, keep looking up and stay curious.